Hey there, this is Amber Nestor. I am the listing agent for the property at 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road in Harriman, Tennessee of Roane County. And this is a new video. We're going to talk about three things in this video. We're going to talk about some new and recent improvements that the seller is working on based on buyer feedback from previous showings. We're going to talk about future potential and development value of the land and acreage that's attached, and also of the structure itself. And then the third thing we're going to talk about today are showings and future showings with or without an agent, getting that stuff scheduled, being able to go visit the property, etc. So if you've not taken a look at this property yet, this is the first primary advertising image right now. You're looking at a diagram on the upper right of the 7.75 acres. Again, some county estimates put that at 7.99 acres. So to be conservative here, I've put the 7.75. The image to the upper left is a picture of the front of the house, which is very misleading because the house, we're going to show it from some other angles. It's a two-level. It's got a very large basement with relatively high ceilings. It's got a walkout garage door, which could be converted into a sliding glass door. It's got a walkout regular residential door. It's also got two windows. So you're going to see all that here in just a second. This particular image would be the angle you take a picture of the house to show it in a way that would make it look its smallest, but it's actually got a lot of square footage. The diagrams on the bottom left and right show the waterways, and this yellow pin shows the proximity of the home in relation to these branching waterways. It also indicates key areas, regions, towns, cities, and things that are nearby. This one over here, the red pins and the gray, show some of the major and more popular water access areas, but definitely not all of them. So let's take a deeper dive on this property, and we're going to start today's video talking about new improvements that the seller is currently working on based on showing feedback. So taking you into the MLS screen photo gallery viewpoint, we're going to flip kind of through the photo gallery here and talk about some things. So let's get to the basement level. Sorry for that long pause there. Let's get to the images of the basement level. And again, if you want to look at this photo gallery in a slower pace, you can find the property on realtor.com. Any member of the public can find it on realtor.com. Just type in that address, 425 Ashe, A-S-H-E, Cabin Hollow Road, Harriman, Tennessee, 37748. It'll pop right up. You'll have to forgive me. I have a touch of allergies. So these are some images of the basement, and it is one big open space. And there's the access points and the windows, and there's a picture of the house from the other side of the front, really giving a better view at just how much square footage is actually there. Then we can get to some more pictures from around the back. Let me get to those. That's the ground level. Okay, this is a picture from the back, and again, excuse me, this is going to be, this is a burn pile that's going to be gone and burned off and cleared. It might have already been handled. There was a fresh lawn work and bush hogging done just a few days ago. So when I snapped this particular image, that pile was still there. So it's no longer there. There's going to be updated images in the coming days ahead if the property isn't already under contract. Underneath here is where the access door is to the basement. There's the garage door, of course, which would be beautifully if converted to a large sliding glass door system there. At least that's what I would do with it there. The seller also suggested that would be really beautiful right there. But there's a regular residential door under there, and then over here there's a crawl space access. So This back view kind of gives you a little bit better idea of how big the house really is. This is the access point where you will go for showings when you want to go to the interior of the property. This will be the access door, and this will be the access point. I'm just going to click through the rest of these images really quickly here. There's a max in the East Tennessee Realtor system of 60 images. Yeah, that's clicked through all of them there real quickly. And let's go back and talk about the improvements. So things that you need to know about this property related to these improvements. We're working on a professional level multi-day deep clean of the entirety of the property, the ground level, the basement level, and both HVAC systems, and also the crawl space. So it's going to be just immaculate after all of that. When you're imagining the floor plan, which I may have some diagrams of this in the next few days if the property is not already under contract by then, but the ground level, when you walk in, and take you to that space. Let me get to that screen again. Okay, when you walk in either the front door or the back door, you're walking into a big open kitchen living room space. Okay, and then branching off to the left and branching off to the right, there's bedroom spaces and bathroom spaces. Okay, so pretty simple floor plan, extremely desirable. I love that because with the 3 bedrooms and the 2 baths in the main level and the kitchen living room space central to the home, you know, if you want to have some space between the adult end of the house and the kids end of the house, you can have that space. I always think that's a really great floor plan. I also just think it's a good floor plan in general, just to have the kitchen and the living room at the heart of the home, so to speak. The downstairs level square footage footprint is very similar to the upstairs. Let's go over to those. And this is the kitchen living room space from another angle as well, another angle as well. That opens onto the back porch. We're going to go over to the basement images. This seller is just, honestly, I gotta brag on him because he's one of the best clients I've ever worked for. He really cares about the experience of the people coming to visit his property and what their feedback is, and he's just an absolute pleasure to work for. Trying to get over to these other images real quick here. I'm just clicking through because our next topic of discussion, let me elaborate a bit on some of that cleaning and deep cleaning. So one of those tasks is that, if I understood correctly, the seller is having this ground level here, or sorry, basement level, all of this pressure washed. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to look down there after that's done. Very, very excited. And I think they might also be doing some pressure washing of some other aspects of the grounds. So I just cannot wait for that. Very excited about that. So that's definitely some images that I'll need to update after that process is done. So let's get on to the future potential and development value of the property. And while we talk about that, we're going to start out by looking at the property line diagram. And take note as we get to that property line diagram. Look at this vast, massive, pre-cleared, grassy backyard space that is so flat, okay? There's also a huge chunk of land that's wooded. So this is the outline of the property. You can see the northern border is approximately 1,004 feet long. the home is right about here. And so you picture all this backyard space that's been cleared, and then you have this vast area that's wooded that's also yours. So zoning has confirmed in email and writing some development potential that an owner can potentially explore. And I'm going to pull that communication up here in just a second. This is the nice long private gravel driveway that leads up to the house. This is standing near the road. This is standing underneath the back deck, looking towards the backyard. And you can see there's a vast amount of space here. I have a measuring wheel that I might take back there and measure the current amount of cleared space from the back of the house to the furthest point that's open to get a length of that measurement there. One of the days that I'm out there, if I get a chance to do that before it goes under contract. This topography map does a really great job of showing you how this back, so here's the house, okay, ignore these dashed yellow lines. Ignore these dashed yellow lines. Typically those are representative of a past proposed or considered survey that was abandoned or erased. And I can get verification of that if you want me to or need me to. But every time I have ever researched these dashed yellow lines extracted from this particular research system, that is what the research came up to show. So back to the topic at hand, development potential, future potential of the land itself attached to the house. So here's the house. The long driveway comes from the road through to here. Then it extends past the house a bit. Then you have this huge cleared flat space, okay? When you go beyond the trees at the back of the backyard, kind of in a straight line, or if you're walking from the house towards the backyard and you veer off to your right, you have this gentle rolling uphill that is very vast. The seller reports he has hiked to the peak back here, and that's a very beautiful hike. I would imagine that if you go this way, hopefully you're seeing the mouse on my screen heading towards the back and then loop around like this. I would imagine that that's probably the easiest path to hike. But zoning has said there is a great deal of development potential. So what exactly do I mean by that? So what I've done here on this screen is I've copied and pasted some of the language that my allergies are so bad. I'm so sorry, you guys. I've copied and pasted some of the language from email correspondence I had with zoning, so we can go through it. So this was from 5 days ago. That was Friday, July 10th. Today is July 15th, 2026. It is a Wednesday. It's about 11:43 a.m. Eastern. So this is what it says. Amber, please see below for the responses to your questions. Please let us know if you have any further questions. Thank you. So again, this is in regards to 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road in Harriman, Tennessee. So I had asked, how many primary residences are the owners allowed to attempt? He says the maximum density is 2 units per acre. Now keep in mind that the deed reference in database reports suggests 7.75 acres. The county estimate suggests 7.99 acres, okay? So he says the maximum density is 2 units per acre, but we highly recommend subdividing if possible. So based on the zoning rules for this particular parcel, this is what zoning has said. You may attempt to have 2 primary residences per every acre, with 7.75 acres, 7 being the total uninterrupted acres. 7 times 2 is 14 homes. 14 homes. Now, of course, with any development and construction project, how many homes you can put on a parcel is going to be contingent upon what zoning ultimately approves, what developers, what site prep excavators, what construction experts, what septic permit officials all finally approve and allow, right? It's going to have to do with the placement of probably some type of shared driveway or extension of the shared driveway space, um, how you intend to use those structures. I know that rental properties are absolutely allowed there. So that could be primary residence, it could be long-term rental, it could be short-term rentals. Um, and how you place them, how you create those footprints and how you place them throughout the acreage there. But that is an incredible and rare opportunity to be able to do that. Additionally, if you consider figuring in, well, what's the minimum square footprint per structure with that zone code, then you could, I mean, I think it would be cool I think it would be cool to extend the driveway, which is right here, that passes that, it comes up here, passes the home, looking at the home, it passes to the left of the home. If somebody was to extend that, and hopefully the screen is capturing my mouse movement, extend that like this and come up here. What if you put like a trail of structures that followed that path and then ended up here? And then, um, I mean, maybe even branch off and put one here, or come back down this way and put one here. But there's just so much opportunity if someone has a bigger vision for the property and what could be done with it. And that might be something you attempt short term, long term, or that you just know that you kind of keep in your back pocket. That, let's say you just use this property as a primary residence, but you know that in 2 or 5 or 10 years you're going to sell it. Well, because you're aware of this potential, that's a selling point, right? So to whoever you sell it to in the future. So whenever you have land, especially in this case, land with quite a bit of privacy, and quite a bit of beauty surrounding it, encapsulated by a lot of privacy and beauty, um, there's potential there that's a rare opportunity that's very marketable, and it, in my opinion, creates value and purchase price stability and growth over time, both in the short term and the long term. That's very valuable and arguably more stable, because you've got options here that other property owners simply don't have and will never have for development. Now let's go back to the screen from zoning's summary. Okay, I said, are duplex type structures allowed? And they said no. So what does that mean? It means that every house that you build on the property has to be primary residence style and floor plan. It can't be like a duplex style floor plan. But honestly, who cares? Because if you're allowed to put up to 2 houses per every acre, then you can build as many separate residences as is applicable, and allowable. So you wouldn't really necessarily need a duplex type structure, right? Then I said, are RVs allowed and to what extent? You're allowed to have up to one RV. It has to go through the zoning office permit process. And special note here, there are rules about the age of the RV and the appearance of the RV. So don't go out and buy an RV without talking to zoning first, because if the RV is beyond a certain age, I think that there are limitations on whether or not it can be used as a permitted residence, okay? Parking an RV of any age, of course, you're allowed to park your vehicles on your property, right? But as far as using it as a permanent residence, there's rules and permitting for that. And the rules are very minimal and the permitting is very cheap. You can't do this on just any piece of land. There's very limited pieces of land in the US, in the state, in Roane County, that will let you have an RV and use it as a residence year round. So this property allows you to do that. Rare opportunity there, right? Very cool. It's another unique thing that this property offers that gives the property value that other properties may never have that legal ability. Okay. Let's see here. Then I asked if double wide modular homes are allowed, and they said yes. I asked if single wide uh, modular homes are allowed. They said yes. I asked if multi-unit structure floor plans in excess of 2 units are allowed. They are not. So no duplexes, no threeplexes, no fourplexes, etc. Okay, nothing that's apartment style is allowed. But primary or single family homes, yes, up to 2 per acre. And again, with this, I would estimate up to 14 total. Okay. I said anything else notable, and he said it's zoned A2. So that is really, really cool. That's a very, very cool set of opportunities there. When you combine that with the property's proximity to the waterways, proximity to conveniences, just the beautiful shape of the land, the beauty that wraps around the land, the thickness of the trees, and all these other things, the privacy. This is a really special place. Also, the floor plan is really pretty cool. So let's take a deeper dive into the floor plan potential of the structure that is already there. And also, let me veer off real quick and talk about something else that's actually kind of neat that someone might hit the ground running with. Let me get to the right image. Did I already pass up the image? Oh, it's kind of hard to see. It just kind of looks like a darkened space, okay? But this picture is taken from the perspective of, let's say you are walking up the front yard, you see the house, and you point to the right and you walk around the right hand side of the house and you begin to enter the backyard and look into the backyard, and you kind of look slightly to the left. Okay, that's the perspective of this image. And you can see that the driveway has extended, the driveway in the flat space extends past the house's left side and then comes over here into the front of this carport area. There's 3 bays, and then there's, I think this is kind of like a dog cage type thing. It's quite big. Or maybe like could maybe be used for chickens or something maybe. Anyway, this is a big flat space and there's electricity run over here. So one thing somebody could consider is knocking most of this down, tossing it over here, having a little bonfire, and this being the site of maybe the second residence that you build there. I'm not sure what the footprint is of this space, but you know, if you had, if I remember, correctly, the windows here would kind of be facing over this way. So, and then you could have a window that faced out that way, and then maybe, well, you could have a window on that side too. Or there's any number of things, but the footprint of this might meet or be close to the minimum square footage footprint for a structure in that zone, and you might just be able to hit the ground running with a second structure there. Companies like SummertownMetals.com have spectacular prices on supplemental structures, on metal structures. You could have a structure put in that is extremely low cost per square foot. They can encapsulate the input of the foundation, and then you can ask them to build it to residential specs so that it could be finished out later. That is something they are experts in. Out of all the metal building companies I've ever researched and come across, SummertownMetals.com, they are my all-time favorite. I have seen them expand and grow because they have streamlined their processes. Their customer interaction is spectacular. I am just totally obsessed with their company. So anyway, they would be a company I'd recommend reaching out to, but that might be a really easy spot to begin with another structure. Again, make sure that you go through the zoning office, the Roane County zoning office, for any step or stage, because while there's not always requirements for permitting for metal building sheds or separate structures, if your plan for the future is to finish out that structure and turn it into another residence, you need to make sure that there's enough space between these two structures, that you have an idea in mind for how you might place the septic for this structure, that the permit that you get for that structure is for something that is residential or can in the future be converted to residential without an issue. So these are things you want to be thinking about if you're going to do this in a slow and scalable way, right? So there's just so much. And there are loans that you can get that will encapsulate into that mortgage the finished work for the primary residence, maybe even for putting a structure here or another structure somewhere else on the property. If you contact Cardinal Financial, you can explore those options with them. They have an enormous variety of products and solutions for all kinds of different scenarios. If you don't find a solution with Cardinal Financial, you might reach out to Summertown Metals and say, hey, will you give me a list of the lenders that you guys collaborate with, recommend for the following kinds of things? They can give you their list. I used to have their list. I don't have it handy with me at the moment. The reason I recommend Cardinal Financial, though, is they've been around a long time and they just offer a enormous variety of lending products for lots of types of solutions and scenarios. A lot of people don't realize that there are so many different types of lending products that can be utilized for so many different types of goals and scenarios. So I really like Cardinal because they have the ability to pivot into many different kinds of products. So definitely look into that if you've not selected a lender. So let me revisit my notes here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to pause this. Let's scoot over to the images of that ground level again. Or not, sorry, I keep saying ground level. The main level is the ground level. The basement is underground. And so I keep calling it ground level and I'm confusing everyone. No, this is the main level that's pretty much level with the ground. The basement is the basement. All right, the walkout basement. So let's get to look at the interior of that walkout basement. And I'm going to tell you what I think would be super cool to do down there. Once we get to that image set. Okay. So this is standing off to one of the long sides, and you can see over here there's a window here and a window here. There's something placed in the window leaning against the glass. It just needs moved out of the way. I think all the shelving is going to convey with the sale of the property, which anyway, it will convey if you want it. But these two windows, they're placed pretty symmetrically, maybe almost perfectly symmetrically on this wall, and they're facing the right of the property. So when you approach the home and you're looking at the front door and you point to the right, that's the direction that those two windows are facing. You've got a view of the forest right there. Now there's the garage door as a point of reference, and over here you see the residential style door. There's plumbing over here. Me personally, I would take this hot tub, I would put it outside somewhere out of the way. And then I think it would be cool to put a wall kind of close to the edge of where this garage door begins, extend that from wall to wall, turn that into a luxury bathroom space. And then from here all the way to the other side to where those windows are. Let's get back to that picture where those windows are. From there all the way over there, turn that into a big master suite bedroom. Put in those big sliding glass doors right here. I think that would be a really cool thing to explore. You might even be able to split that into 2 rooms instead of just 1. So right now you've got 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, open living room, kitchen on the main level, the upstairs. But the downstairs, with very little work, could potentially become another bedroom and bath, or maybe even 2 more bedrooms and a bath. Again, all of this is contingent upon, you know, exploring this with a construction professional, a renovation professional, permitting processes, etc. But as far as a vision for what the property could very quickly become, I think that would be very cool to explore personally. Another thing that I want to note is when you're standing down here, when you visit the property, I want you to stand, I want you to reach your hands up over your head and really experience how high the ceiling is down there. So it's a very cool basement with a ton of potential. Let me think if there's anything else I want to say about the structure itself and its future potential, and then we'll talk about showings and all of that stuff. Let's get over to the back porch area again. So when you want to go visit the property, there will be a date, and I will probably announce this in the details and descriptions area of the publicly accessible listing info. But there will be a date on the calendar when the home becomes 100% vacant. It's all under surveillance, of course. The seller is going to be relocating, and the only people that are going to be in and out of the home at that point will be myself, a couple of his family members that will be checking on the property from time to time. There will be someone keeping up the yard that will be there periodically. And then, of course, anyone that's coming in for a showing. So when you come in for the showing, you're going to go up the back steps, and there's going to be a locking mechanism or a key access mechanism of some sort here on the back door. Right now we've got like a manual lockbox. So you won't have to use an electronic Supra E-key, which is awesome. Don't have to rely on that. I love to avoid those if possible. We've talked about putting in a keypad system that's built into the door. So it might upgrade to that. So like one that's electronic. But for now, that's what we're using. If you're a buyer and you want to see the inside of the home, right now you have to schedule an appointment. That could be scheduled with me. It could be scheduled with an agent. If you are already in a contract with a buyer's agent, by law, you have to have your agent do those communications and all that stuff. I'm not supposed to talk to you directly if you're in a contract with your own buyer's agent. Instead, I communicate with your agent. If you're not in a contract with a buyer's agent, you're free to contact me directly for anything and everything. I can even write up your offer. I can schedule your showings. I can answer any question. I can gather any detail that you need or want. Again, we are accepting purchase offers that include contingencies for any type of inspection that you desire. And so I think that's really great and flexible there. We are flexible on price at this point, and want to encourage all offers. Let's see what else. Oh, at a certain point though, once I get confirmation of what date that is, my hope is that we're going to have all the windows curtain free and maybe even lights on at night, so that, and again, there is extensive surveillance throughout this property. You might not see the cameras, but they are seeing you, and they are controlled remotely and monitored remotely. But after a certain point on the calendar, you'll be able to do like where you can go walk the property lines without having an agent with you, probably. I'm waiting for confirmation from my seller on this, but I think that it's probably going to get approved. I like to be able to make it so that buyers can go out there at their leisure, walk the property lines. I can provide you with instructions on how to use a couple of different apps to locate the property lines in real time while you're walking the property. Um, and just explore the land and peek in the windows and look around the property. Again, right now, as of today, the 15th of July, do not access the private property without scheduling an appointment and contacting me first. But there will be a date probably in the next few days where I'll be able to say, hey, just go out there whenever, take a look around. But accessing the inside will always require an agent to be present. And the way that I do showings is, if you book your showing with me directly, I'm going to let you in. I'm going to try to just kind of be a fly on the wall and let you take your time and go through the home and just wait to see if you ask me any questions. I don't want to bother you. I want you to be able to relax and just explore the interior, the exterior, and the land at your leisure. And that way you can just have time to think your own thoughts, and then reach out to me to ask a question if you have a question while you're there. That is how showings are being done and how showings are planned to be done. And I'm looking at my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention in today's video, but I think that's all for now. We're at almost 37 minutes. Again, my phone number is 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. Sending me a text is the best way to get the fastest response. You're also free to call and leave a voicemail. But I'm one of these people, I'm running multiple businesses, and I'm kind of on call for all these businesses all the time. So I'm constantly checking text messages and then following up. So that's what I recommend you use as a way to reach out and establish contact. Make sure you send me all the information you would like me to put into your contact card to save into my phone. And hopefully this property might be a good fit for you or someone that you know. Please do share this video on social media with some impactful hashtags. And if you are a buyer or a seller and this is not what you're looking for, but you want to talk to me about your goals, I would love to help you reach those goals, whether that's on market or off market. So thanks again for visiting. Have a great day, and we should be back tomorrow.